Greetings and welcome to another episode of Collective Awakening Weekly. My name is Carrie and I'm a professional psychic and shamanic healing practitioner in Sedona, Arizona. Each week I take a peek at what's going on astrologically, cosmically, energetically, spiritually, and share channeled insights, guidance, sacred wisdom teachings to support our collective journeys in spiritual awakening, healing, and empowerment. This week, as I'm recording this video, we are on the day of the first quarter moon happening in the sign of Aquarius. And this also marks the 7-day countdown to the full moon partial lunar eclipse that we have happening next week. The energies are definitely building this week, and we do have a strong Scorpio energy coming into the picture around this eclipse season. This week we have 4 celestial bodies in water signs, and we have 7 planets in fixed signs. The water influence does have a tendency to make us all a little bit more emotional, a little bit more quick to being triggered. The 7 planets being in fixed signs does lend itself to us all feeling a little bit more connected with the energy of perseverance and determination, but be forewarned that it can also lead to an energy of stubbornness. With all of the Scorpio energy, with all of the water energy coming into the picture with the fixed signs, there is a tendency to see things in terms of extremes: right, wrong, good, bad, black, white, I'm right, you're wrong type of thing. And so we really want to practice mindfulness and think before we speak this week, especially now because we do have Mercury and Mars both in the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is very intuitive. It inspires all of us to want to experience a depth of connection with ourselves and with others. But Scorpio can also sometimes be very stinging. And this is why with Mercury in Scorpio and Mars in Scorpio, this is a really good week to sort of keep ourselves in check. Again, practice mindfulness, think before you speak in order to avoid or minimize the tendency for conflict that happens through communication and misunderstandings. We're going to talk a lot more about the lunar eclipse in next week's episode, but since the energy this week is really building up to the eclipse, I do want to share some things that will enable us to move through the energy more consciously. Now, this particular lunar eclipse that we have coming up on the full moon next week is happening in the sign of Taurus, and so it puts us on the Taurus-Scorpio axis, and this is the first time that we've had an eclipse in the Taurus-Scorpio axis since 2013, 2014. So a really good way to get a heads up on how this eclipse may impact you is to think back to 2013, 2014 and remember whatever you were experiencing back then that was soul growth triggering for you. And we can expect sort of a repeat of that type of energy in alignment with whatever your current situations are. So when we know this, we can prepare for it and we can move through the energies this time way more consciously. The best tool that we can all utilize right now in alignment with the transformation that this eclipse season is moving us through is the energy of self-love. Venus energies are becoming a little bit more prominent as we're moving closer to the eclipse. And again, this eclipse is happening in the sign of Taurus, which Venus is the ruling planet of Taurus. So we can all expect that issues having to do with self-worth, our values, relationships, matters of the heart, home, beauty are the areas that are being illuminated and highlighted right now. Let's remember that eclipses always serve as portals of transformation, that trigger soul growth opportunities. Some of us may experience these triggering in abrupt ways, and some of us may experience the triggering in more gentle ways that unfold over time. But let's all remember that we are really at the beginning of this 2-month-long process of transformation that's being activated by the lunar eclipse happening next week, and then the solar eclipse that's happening on the next new moon. So ultimately, these eclipses are serving to bring us into fresh insights and awarenesses that ultimately are supporting us in optimizing our path, bringing ourselves back into more of a refined alignment with that which feels connected to self-worth, self-love, our core life values, and living a life that's aligned with our highest goals and dreams. With that, let's go ahead and delve into the cards and see what additional messages I want to channel through. Okay, here we go. So for today, I am feeling guided to work with my Wisdom of Avalon Oracle deck here. So let me give a few shuffles as I focus in. And we're going to do a 5-card spread today, taking a look at what's going on holistically. Externally, internally, we'll take a look at any hidden energies to be revealed, anything to be cautionary over, and then we'll take a look at what's our power energy that we can really harness this week. So as always, just taking a moment here to set the intention that everything that comes through today is coming from only the highest sources of light and guidance possible, and that everything is clear and in alignment with our highest path and purpose. First card we're going to look at is taking a peek at how things are shaping up in the world of form around us in alignment with these energies building up to the lunar eclipse. Okay, so we have dog energy coming up, which is all about loyalty and unconditional love. As this is showing up in the position that indicates what we're witnessing externally, let's all choose to notice how life is supporting us in completely embodying unconditional self-love, self-loyalty, being in the now moment, cultivating peace and serenity. This card is assigned to the number 19, which is a 10, which is a 1 in numerology. This eclipse season that we're in the midst of now certainly is supporting us all in a new journey, new beginnings, which is what 1 in numerology represents. And so we want to greet this portal of transformation in the energy of unconditional self-love, self-loyalty. Harness the energy of Saturn and Aquarius now to fuel your ambitions that are connected to your desires and how or what you choose to bring to life, what you choose to contribute to humanity. It all starts with self-love, self-worth, self-appreciation, and living in alignment with what you choose to value, what your core life values are. Next card we're going to look at is giving us deeper insight as to how we're experiencing things internally now. The Goblin, which is a representation of the wounded human ego, as it says here on the keywords, if you can see that. So the wounded ego certainly is fitting for all this Scorpio emotional triggering energy that we're all really feeling on one level or another. And as I said earlier, the best approach is to think before we speak, to practice mindfulness. Be aware of what your triggers are, but instead of projecting them outwardly on others in ways that cause conflict, ask yourself, how is this trigger showing me where I have unhealed wounds? How is this trigger showing me where I have room for soul growth and healing? Don't let the wounds of your ego mind get the best of you, because if you do, ultimately you're going to be on a path of self-sabotage. So it's our willingness to choose mindfulness over wounded reactionariness that's really going to determine how well and productively we are able to move through this portal of transformation that the eclipses are bringing us into. Let's take a look at any hidden influences. Hidden influences. Hidden influences. The butterfly, transformation. On this card, it says beauty. Oops, it says beauty as the key word here. Butterfly is around transformation. Now, I flipped it up right because it was sort of half and half. If we want to look at it in a reverse capacity, then we can see that that transformation is mostly internal, and that will lead to transformation that we experience externally. The card is associated with the number 25, which is a 7 in numerology. 7 is connected to the mystical and spiritual dimensions of life. So the transformation, the inward transformation that we're experiencing now, supports us all in really accessing our spiritual nature. And if we can let ourselves connect with our spiritual energies, our spiritual side, our spiritual nature, nurture and support the transformation that wants to happen. Typically, eclipses do bring us into opportunity to illuminate our awareness and experience soul growth. So that's very connected to the transformation that's indicated here with the butterfly energy. Even though we are up against some sort of emotionally volatile energies being triggered within us this week, we don't have to let that energy get the best of us. We can work through it consciously and harness it in the direction of positive, internal, soul growth oriented transformation. Let's take a look at what to be cautionary over this week. I feel like it wants to be this one. The raven showing up reversed. Raven is one of my biggest power animals. I love that this is showing up. It reminds us to be aware of the magic in life. It reminds us to embrace the mystery as being the realm where magic, miracles can happen. So in the reverse position, it really brings us into self-reflection. It brings us into accessing our own magical nature. It brings us into honoring the signs and synchronicities that life is showing us and guiding us with, right? Signs and synchronicities are meant to guide us in the direction of our highest path. And signs and synchronicities are a part of what's connected with raven energy. You may want to literally do some type of personal ceremony that's around connecting with raven energy. Now, it's assigned to the number 10, which again is a 1 in numerology. So we've got a big energy around new beginnings happening, which we already know that ultimately that is going to be a part of the transformation around the eclipses. But as this card is showing up reversed as to what to be cautionary over, I would say don't turn a blind eye on what your inner guidance is. This is not the time to avoid or ignore what feels like signs, synchronicities, inner urgings connected to your soul guidance. This is not the time to avoid or ignore those things. We want to take whatever feels like spiritual guidance, whether it's coming from our inner self or coming from around us in the nature realm. We really want to take those things to heart right now. The challenge, I think, is in being willing to be really truthful with yourself about the guidance that you're getting and making decisions to take action on that when the time feels right for you. Tap into the great mystery, the realm of life, the unseen, mystical, sacred dimensions of life that operate outside of linear time and space, where all things are possible. We want to tap into that realm consciously rather than stubbornly avoiding the access that we have to this aspect of ourselves now. And then the power. What's the power energy that we all have to work with this week? Just really feeling into what it wants to be. I feel like it's this one. The Fire Fairy. This is about creative action and optimism. Now, we do have the first quarter moon happening in the sign of Aquarius today, which is all about optimism. So our power is alchemizing that energy of intense emotional triggering, alchemizing it in the direction of what our biggest enthusiasms and passions are. Channel it in regard to creative expression this week. It's assigned to the number 3, which is connected to growth, fruition, and abundance. So harness that emotional energy in the direction of your creative ambitions and your passions. This will kind of like give you a little bit of a leading edge in regard to the transformation that's happening through this eclipse season. Thanks so much for joining me today. Stay tuned. There's more videos ahead, and I will see you in the next one. All my love, guys. Blessings and namaste.